Hey Andrew, what's the timeline on that? Like a week from now or something?
Oh, your SLAs are pretty soft, Liran. I mean, a week.
No.
No, that's all right. So let me share out my screen. Cory, good to see you. Are you back from overseas? Or were you overseas?
Yeah, I was traveling the world.
Yeah, I know Michael had done like 52 countries in 3 weeks, it sounded like,
Yeah,
but
I was Portugal, Ireland, Indonesia. I'm finally back and I'm done traveling.
I bet. How's the new place in Tennessee?
I don't know. This is probably my seventh day in it, and I moved in June 1st.
Wow.
Cory, you don't have a tan.
No. I stay inside. I don't tan anyways. It's either red or pale white. You pick.
All right. So we got an action pack one today. We'll start off, Jim, as always, with wins of the week, or if you have anything from the CEO desk you'd like to share. We'll go into Amy's got some quick update on something going on with the channel program. Liron's got some Fortify updates, and I got some stuff on BIA and what's been happening in the world of compromise that we can use to help drive some more revenue. So, as always, Jim, let me let you kick it off. Give me 1 second here. Jim, kick it off.
Yeah. So, hey everybody, everyone's doing well. As folks are thinking about their wins of the week, I will just share with you something that happened yesterday. So it's relatively rare, just based on the fact that we've got over 1,100 partners around the world at this point, that I get to do in-person training sessions. But yesterday, I was fortunate enough to be able to do one with a brand new partner that signed in Q2, and they wanted some sales training, and they had their entire sales team in from different parts of their geography for the session. And immediately they saw the value in the prospecting piece and closed within 24 hours a 250 seat deal uh, using SaaS alerts.
Nice.
So I was there yesterday at 10 a.m. and within 24 hours, they've closed a 250 user deal prospecting with the SaaS alerts cyber assessment. So it's I emphasize that because from my perspective, that's a massive win, right? And I reinforced to that audience yesterday, as a former MSP myself, if I could go back in time with SaaS alerts, I would be leading from a prospecting perspective because there's still only 1,100, 1,105 as of today MSPs around the world out of 150,000 that are using us. So it's still a big market advantage. Chances are when you go in to talk to a small business, they have an existing MSP, they're probably not using us. So use it as a wedge to get in, gain their trust around the most important application they use, which is 365. And I believe you're going to find your way to the entire managed services contract. So that's my win of the week.
Jim, as part of the message, you've shared this before that you would do a land and expand versus the old, either take it or leave it.
Yes, 100%. You know, and I articulated this yesterday too, almost like PTSD around all the sales calls that I went on when I was an MSP at Thrive, and we had a pretty good close rate for the most part on a relative basis, but still, 75% of the time I'm walking out with zero, right? Because all I'm doing is I'm selling my entire suite. I'm selling my entire managed services offering. That adds a lot of friction into a sales process when it's a take it or leave it scenario. So what I would be doing now is I wouldn't be adding that friction. I would be reducing that friction and saying, hey, look, you may or may not be happy with your existing provider. And either way is okay. We can take care of you in both situations. But are they doing X, Y, and Z for you? Are they protecting your really, the highest threat vector that you have is 365? Do you know what your Microsoft security score is, Mr. and Mrs. Customer? Do you know what it is and what it could be based on your license type? We can come in, we can set it up, we can run it for 2 weeks and come back with the data. And if everything is great, then you probably are in good shape. But no obligation, chances are we're going to find some stuff and we can, tackle it from there. We can take it from there.
Jim, one
Like
other
that is zero friction at that point.
Jim, one other point I'd like to make is, in speaking, you and I talked a little bit about Thrive this week, that for the most part now is focusing much more up market, 500. Talk to Rob Stevenson. I think give or take, they're 500 to 5,000. That's where they want to be focusing. And so even for the MSPs on this call, it gives you a good opportunity to go into mid-market or larger accounts based on where you are that have IT departments. And again, it's a non-threatening way to partner with them and give them a functionality that they more than likely don't know about today. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, even if they did have, a SOC, a third party, you could feed that data via to a SIM. Is that true?
Oh yeah, definitely through webhooks or our documented API. Like, we have so much flexibility in how you want to consume us at this point. Obviously, all the way to fully, to manage SaaS alerts. So, yeah, the question of co-managed customers came up yesterday in that training session, and they're like, well, in those situations, they don't want to give us their credentials. Fine, we set it up so they don't need to give you the credentials. They can put their own credentials into SaaS alerts.
Right.
So,
exactly. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So again, reducing the friction in the process. So you just want to, been doing this a long time on the sales side, and there's natural blockers to every sale that are just there inherently. And what you want to do is you want to try to systematically eliminate those throughout the sales process to the point where there's no more blockers.
Agree.
And I think leveraging this methodology, I think, makes a lot of sense in doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy, you had a question there?
I just wanted to establish SaaS alerts, in my opinion, is a great way to build trust out of the gate with a customer, and it's a way to land and expand really well. We have used this with a new customer, and I was just sharing with Ben. I never thought to look at alerts and have reports on log items that occur not a result of SaaS alerts, but a result of what's happening. And this customer had AD sync up to Microsoft, and when he got it syncing for the first time in 3 months, it deleted a bunch of user accounts, a few of them that he wanted. And he's going, what the heck happened? And we were able to point out exactly with SaaS alerts what happened with his AD sync. And that built even more trust with the customer. So I'm trying to express to Ben that this would be a way to expand the offering with managed SaaS alerts to help us better manage these other aspects that SaaS alerts wasn't even designed to do, but we're able to do with SaaS alerts.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. There's always a way to push the product even more. You're going to find it.
All right. Do we have
nothing but trouble for you guys?
I love it, Andy.
So, Jim, do we have any wins this week? Let's see. Anybody want to share something?
I got something I can share.
Awesome.
Normally I
Nice.
don't share in these things, but I got something to share.
Get out.
So,
Cool.
while I was traveling the world, I have to give many kudos and credit to Zach, who's on this call. He is my SME for SaaS alerts and then my NOAM SOC manager. So they ended up uncovering a pretty elaborate phishing campaign that originated July 4th, go figure, holiday. We started sending alerts to some of our partners who are coming back saying, oh, this is legitimate, but they questioned the accuracy of the partner. And come to find out, it was actually adversaries through this phishing campaign that are doing a man-in-the-middle scenario where they're sending out the typical phishing campaigns, PDF files. Here's a document for you. They're using Axios as the middle portion of ingesting the credentials and the MFA and stealing all that information. We've set up a respond rule associated with it. I can have Zach post it in the Discord, all the different IPs that we've collected off of this. So far we have 100% accuracy and no false positives through this respond rule. I can tell you in the last 3 days, we've had 5 legitimate hits of our customer base falling for these and alerting them, even to the point where we're seeing failed logins, but they still fail for it and credentials were still passed.
Wow.
Wow, that's great. Cory,
Yeah.
would you be willing to let Zach share that as a template and respond?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
That is really elaborate, by the way.
So it keeps ramping up. I don't know
Yeah.
how much it keeps going. It started July 4th and it keeps ramping more as it comes. So we keep adding to our IP list. And like I said, so far we've had 0 false positives.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Cory. That's awesome. And welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to have you back.
Appreciate it.
All right, who's going to one up Cory on that one?
Yeah, good luck. Can't wait to see.
I can one down Cory on 2 personal ones that came through this week. They're not directly SaaS alerts related, but I think they're worth noting as a reminder. You know, what all of us do as security professionals, even outside of our business, is really important. First one's really mundane and maybe a caution to everybody. One of my banks today, my banking app, I got 2 bounces for MFA login to the banking app that I didn't initiate. So I immediately contacted the bank and asked them for the sign-in logs because, of course, me being me, I want to look at where that came from, who was attempting it. They haven't responded yet, by the way, and it never occurred to me before that banks might not actually have sign-in attempt logs that they'll share with their customers. So curious thing to maybe ask your bank about. The other one's a funny story. It's Saturday, driving down my driveway, my neighbor is pulled over, sitting under a tree, looking at his cell phone with his tractor running. And I said, hey, what are you doing? You know, this is never good. You need help. And he looks at me and he goes, well, as I'm sitting here bouncing around on the tractor, somehow I managed to open my DoorDash app and order $150 of McDonald's food to my rental house, which he has, 25 miles away from here. And I looked at him and said, Michael, you're describing to me like putting a monkey in front of a typewriter, and in 100 years, you're going to get Shakespeare. Like, do you really think that could have happened? He's like, yeah, well, what else could it be? I said, someone hacked your account. And he just never thought of it. And it really drove home for me how all of us, we live in a different world than the people that we protect. And this extends to our customers. Like, they just don't see things through the lens that we think of. And of course, he discovered his account was hacked, and then he had to spend the afternoon changing all of his passwords on his other accounts and getting rid of his payment features on those accounts. So it's just what we do as a group is so important. And the more that we can pass that knowledge through to other people, whether inside the business or out, it's just critical that we always maintain that vigilance.
Rich, you got something?
Yeah, so side effect of we picked up somebody cracked into an account for a lawyer and was reading through the check register. So I alerted them to that, blocked everything. And then I talked to the woman that kind of manages the relationship with the bank about the registers. She said that they basically locked it all up because it had account information in there for their clients. They felt like they really wanted to just buckle down that account. So now she's not even allowed to access it until the bank does their thorough, analysis of possible, fraud attempts on any of those accounts. I haven't heard back from her yet, but that I was happy in one sense that the bank was taking those efforts, but I felt bad that they now were suspended, waiting for their accounts to be accessible again. Kind of put a log jam in some of their business work, and we were just a little bit late trying to block the account up. We had one little early warning that could have told us to jam up that access, and we just missed it. So
Rich, what was that early warning?
somehow the about 2 weeks earlier that we spotted this access from New York City when the clients in Pennsylvania mostly made an inquiry to the leader of the group that, do they have any people in New York City? And he said no, that he didn't know of, but he had to poll his staff to see if anybody was doing work that might require someone in New York City to, access a share file or something like that. So the problem was that should have been enough to convince us. We actually did suspend the tokens, and we did all that, but we never kind of chased the guy to change his password, which that's what we should have done. So we have a feeling that the person must have gotten his password. So because then they went back in the account 2 weeks later and opened that share file to read it, and that's when we reported it to them directly, and then shut down everything. And then we changed his password. So
is this a customer that's
but it was
have MFA, Rich?
it's the sometimes lawyers are a little bit hard to kind of get them to sit down and spend 5 minutes to get the MFA turned on. Sometimes they don't want to be encumbered by it, but in this case, the episode caused a little spice to happen to make them be more willing to do it. Also, they were in arrears on their cyber training program, so we're kicking that into high gear to kind of get them tuned up, because they're unknowing about certain types of phishing emails, and ones that are easy to spot by somebody who knows what they're looking for. But sometimes these people don't know what pops up on their phone, and they click, and they're in trouble. So they were partly reluctant to or partly difficult to kind of get pinned down to do the MFA. I mean, we could have chased them a little bit harder, but anyway, it was SaaS Alerts did its job. It told us that about a risky access from risky site. So we got alerted to it. We just didn't crash down on it hard enough the first time around. So
Well, it's amazing. It's amazing to me how many times law firms are just like the worst offenders. We hear it time and time and time again.
Yeah, and the problem is if they're on their phones and they have email on their phone, sometimes they just kind of click too quickly without actually kind of looking at it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Unbelievable.
Good share, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
Any others?
Welcome.
Taking a quick gander here. No. All right, let's move on to Miss Amy.
All right. Very quick update. Some of you may be familiar. You should all be familiar with Channel Program. It's where all of our marketing material for our partners is stored. But they also a couple of times a year do this really fun giveaway for the channel, and we're participating this year. So I'm going to share this link. It's essentially 10 days of a summer giveaway, and every day they're doing 2 drawings. So there's double the chance to win as in previous years, because they have a ton of MSP vendors who have participated. Cory Solutions Granted, I just noticed, is one of the participants as well. So if you're interested in at least peruse the prizes, I wish I could enter, because I just shared the link in the chat, because there's a lot of really, really good prizes. I think all the prizes are worth $500 or more. And there are 4 grand prizes, which would be triple that. So really cool way to, I don't know, try and win something fun for the summer. So link is in chat if you'd like to register.
Awesome. And you guys are doing a great job, I think. Are you still category leading that, Jim, and Channel Program?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We won 4 badges last week. So
Wow.
3 category leader badges and 1 most viewed profile badge.
Well, it must be Jim. Jim's like, eye candy. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I wish. Is the
That'll be my
testament
new
to
marketing strategy in Michelle's absence. I'm just gonna put Jim's picture on everything.
yeah, just do that.
That's a good way to turn everybody off. So no, you know what? Like the feedback we get on the product is just so good. And every single, I mean, obviously we're hearing people with some wins here, but we get a lot of unsolicited folks that reach out and say, you guys really saved my bacon. And it shows up. It's starting to show up now in recognition of the channel, which is great.
Awesome. All right. And now Liran's going to show us the initial autonomous pen testing alpha code. Right, Liran?
Yeah, I think Chip would kill me if I did that.
All right. You got some Fortify stuff.
I'm actually going to hand things off to Amanda, our Fortify product manager, who knows
Okay.
a lot more about Fortify than I do at this point.
All right. Fantastic.
Hi,
Hey, man.
everyone. Yeah, I don't have much to show. I just wanted to step through a couple of things. We had a release yesterday that contained a couple of new recommended actions and then some additional functionality. So the first item that I wanted to highlight here is that we have now gone ahead and added all Microsoft actions for an organization that are licensable, but they may not have a security implication. So they may not be recommended by Microsoft. So if you instead of having to navigate to Fortify to do only the security related features and then navigating to another dashboard to apply those non-security related actions, you'll now see all Microsoft actions that you were licensed for on that tenant in Fortify, so you could apply those. It will not have a security score impact because they're not the recommended actions from Microsoft, but this just gives you the flexibility to apply those through Fortify rather than having to leave Fortify to find another portal to apply them through. We have a new Intune recommended action, and this is to disable browser password managers. This will be supported on Chrome, Firefox, and Edge. And it's just one recommended action for all 3 of those. So, if you have people that use up to those 3, you just have the one recommended action that'll then get applied across those 3 browsers. We have another new recommended action. This one's a custom recommended action. It'll actually, if you turn it on, it'll notify you via Fortify with the regression, as well as an event in the core manage application that'll tell you when an Entra ID application secret is about to expire. We have set the default range to 7 days. So if a secret will expire within 7 days, you will get the regression within Fortify as well as a SaaS Alerts event letting you know that that secret is about to expire within 7 days. Another Microsoft recommended action we are now have is ensure spam confidence level is configured in mail transport rules with specific domains. And then lastly, we have an item. It's a little bit less probably important, but it's a good feature to have for any custom Fortify recommended actions. We have now supporting the pre-existing tag. So if you were to apply a custom Fortify action, for whatever reason, remove that connection to Fortify and then add that organization back, you would at least know that you've already applied those actions and you'll see the pre-existing tag there.
Writing in.
So that is it from my side from Fortify.
Amanda.
Great.
You see
Give
how
my-
it's sales tax? It shouldn't be in product revenue. It should be someplace else. I'll deal
Awesome.
with it.
And he's
You have
gonna
to
give
wait.
us
It's on me. You can send them home today, pay them for the
accounting.
day. I
And he's
can't
going to
do
talk
this.
through his chart of accounts.
And then it sounds like we have an offboarding too.
So sorry, guys. I thought I was muted. My apologies.
That's okay.
Andy, we love getting the insight into your business.
Yeah.
I know, exactly. So thanks, Amy. Brett applauded, so I don't know which part of that Brett liked the best, but there's some good stuff in there.
By the way, Amanda, like I said, forgive my ignorance, like things like this, release notes, where do the partners know where to get what you just went through? Is it, really visible for them? And if they
No,
want
the
to,
release notes are right on the landing page when you log into SaaS Alerts in the upper corner. They might have minimized that section of the screen because you can now minimize that, so they would need to expand it to see it. We also have a KB article that'll outline the release notes.
okay,
They're also in the monthly newsletter, which will hit your inbox next Wednesday.
There you go.
very cool. All right. Great job. All right. Let me just share back out my screen. Chip, I just want to, we always joke about this, but I'm going to first share my desktop and then this is my daughter, but no, I wanted to show you this one. Chip and I always joke about these because of what happened to your neighbor. But look, this is a pretty good image.
Yes.
But to your point of how for us, this is okay, obviously somebody, a threat actor trying to get us to do something, but how many people, fall for that kind of stuff that aren't in our world?
I would say 7 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Certainly lots. Andrew, can you click on that link for us?
Yeah, absolutely, Chip. If not, do you mind if I copy it and send it to you?
My.
It is amazing. And look, I mean, they just prey on the things that they know people like. People like getting packages, right? Like, oh, someone sent me something and they can't get it to me, so I better help them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's and again, any type of like I've said this ad nauseum, Jim, but again, the whole pretexting, right? We don't have to get people anymore to, necessarily do fancy things in social engineering. We can just ask people to do stuff, which is the genesis of BEC these days, right?
Yep.
So, okay, let me share out my screen here and we'll get on into today. I thought, Jim, I started adding, I hope this is okay, but I started adding in kind of a cyber call clip of the week. I'll put the URL in. This was and also a SaaS Alert customer. This is Ntiva's Jerry Craig, their CISO.
Nice.
Right, big SaaS Alert client.
Yeah, big.
And let me put the URL in. I'm gonna into chat real quick. So it's a short, I think it's less than, I don't know, 3 minutes. And then if you want the full session, I'm just going to put that in below too. Why I just wanted to share this, Jim, was, this week was on business impact analysis or assessments. People call them different things, BIAs. And, just in polling, and asking MSPs, right? Do you have a business continuity plan, right, for your customers? And like, what do you think, Jim, most MSPs would say?
No.
Well, most people, most.
I think they're going to say, I think they will say yes, but in
Yes.
actuality, I think it's no.
Yeah, exactly. But most people are like, hey, we have backup in play. Their idea of business continuity planning is backup. Yeah, we got backup, we got cloud backup, we got this, that, and the other. And what Jerry, who is in the federal space for most of his career and has only been in the MSP space for 3 years, he literally really hit the nail on the head with business continuity plans around, because he said, I don't know how you can do a business continuity plan. How can you have a backup strategy without a business impact analysis? And Chip, I think, for you, you'd go, well, of course, that makes sense. Or, as somebody that runs the secure, in overarchingly, right, looks at the security of SaaS alerts. But he basically says, in most of the MSPs he's ever seen and talked to, it's the cart before the horse. He's like, I don't know how you can bring back company goes down and you want, and by the way, this is accentuated by all the conversations we've had with Chris Lair on incident response, when he goes into companies and they say, what's most critical? What needs to come up first? The response is, everybody says, my thing, my thing. Everybody says their stuff is the most important to come back up, which is the whole purpose of business impact analysis of what's most critical to the business from an applications and process and systems perspective. So I just wanted to share this because I thought it was just such a really important point to make. And BIAs are a really important revenue stream I see for the future of MSPs as we start to, as we go into this world of this, for lack of a better word, we keep evolving as companies. And the next evolution is going to be in the areas, as we know, of the MSPs that are down the line already with automation and RPA, MSPs that are down the line in security, MSPs that are down the line in really the governance functions. I thought Chip Fair call this maybe a governance function and executive function of the overall risk strategy of a company. So
Absolutely, a governance function needed for any kind of security certification at this point, whether it's SOC 2 or ISO or GDPR, whatever you're working on or towards, you have to have a BIA as part of it, documented so that you can demonstrate to an auditor that you've thought of all these things. And it's also a plan that should be reviewed annually because things change. I want to tie this back to the earlier conversation you're having with Jim about where this fits into the selling piece. You made the comment that this is a big revenue stream.
Right.
When I was a relatively small MSP in the early aughts, BIAs and network design, back then we were doing a lot of network design, that they were really bread and butter items. Before everything was a recurring revenue stream, you had to look for stuff like that. But the BIAs in particular were a great prospecting tool, and we did them pretty cheap. We'd probably charge $500 for them, but we were putting in $3,000 worth of man hours of work to really do it well, including the interviews and the write-up. But once you have that package, you can go to a prospect and say, look, this is a sample of what you're going to get from us in a business impact analysis. And working with us after that and becoming our customer, it's going to lead to business continuity planning, disaster recovery planning, documents that go along with it, all those components. So it's another great lead in when you're trying to attract a new customer, especially when you have, they're with an existing MSP partner, or maybe they have internal IT and no one's ever brought it up. No one's ever even suggested to them that it's a need.
Yeah, and Jim also mentioned sales wedges, Chip. This is a great, I love the term paradoxical selling. It's like, so Chip, when your current provider reviewed, your most critical systems with you and where that data was, who the most important people were, in the event there was a down situation, call it a hurricane, doesn't even have to be a cyber attack, Chip. You lost power, there's a big hurricane, whatever, you were down for a few days. Talk to me about how that went. Who was involved in that meeting? What was planned out? Any chance you could share with me, those documents and the policies around those things? And most business owners and people that you're meeting with, when you do that paradoxical statement and question, are going to say, what, Chip?
What are you talking about? That's
yeah.
They're not going to have an answer to that, generally speaking.
Yeah. Which is exactly what you want, right? Because then you can, go into well, really? I'm confused. That they didn't do that?
Yeah. The other common thread that goes through small businesses who most of us serve is we don't need that. That's for big.
Right. And which I'm glad you said that, because that's going to lead into the next piece and kind of the next piece. So why BIA, right? Well, let me give you a few in the news types of things, and then how we can tie this back to what we can do as better ways in which we can get into companies, Jim, and prospect and get SaaS alerts in there doing assessments. So in the news, right? I brought this up last week, right? Which was, how long can you operate without your core business application, your line of business app? Well, let's take a look at this. AutoNation, which was one of the recipients of the CDK cyber attack, they just reported to the in their filing that they are going to be down a third, 1/3. Think about this, right? Again, your companies say, well, this doesn't apply to us. Well, okay, you're not as big as AutoNation, but let me just take you through the process for a minute. Here's a company that was down, no fault on their own. Their line of business app was taken down. Normally they make $4.50 a share for a quarter. This quarter, they're going to report $3 a share versus $4.50. They have 40.27 million shares outstanding. Jim, they're only going to report a loss of, they're only losing $60 million this quarter.
Ouch.
I don't know about you, but I don't have a cool 60 million hanging around.
No.
And if someone's like, it's not applicable to me, say, okay, well, what do you make a quarter? Oh, we make, I don't know, $500,000 a quarter. Okay, great. How are you looking with, 280,000? How are things looking when you make 280?
Yeah.
So,
Andrew, how long were they down? I believe the CDK thing was 2 to 3 weeks, right?
as depending on and more than likely, it's a great question, Andy. More than likely, if you're CDK, I don't know about you, but I'm getting AutoNation up before, Jim Chevrolet.
Yep.
Right.
And so this is a third of their revenue profits for less than a third of the quarter. Reputation's tarnished. Customers aren't satisfied. They weren't able, and they still had to pay their employees to do all this work.
Yeah, manually, by the way.
And do you think AutoNation's going to extract a pound of flesh from CDK?
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be a class action lawsuit. Wouldn't you say, Chip? I mean, it's just a matter of time.
I would think so. I mean, hopefully everybody involved has cyber insurance, and the cyber insurance companies are going to be battling out. That's where it will start.
Yeah, I mean,
and then by the way, everybody else's cyber insurance rates are going to go up next year. So, be ready for that.
Yep. It's very similar to, right, Chip? You're having a bunch of hurricanes in Florida. Our rates are going up next year. Just what it is. Right. So anyway, again, what I'm trying to do for these, by the way, is to get us away from the boogeyman conversation of FUD and more end result of a cyber attack. This is the impact risk to revenue conversation of this is the end result and the implications to the business. Not, oh my God, you could go down if you don't have the security control. No, this is a company that was affected literally by nothing. It's literally something completely out of their control. 100%. They did nothing wrong. Their supplier of their line of business app got hit. All right. Let's talk about one other. Again, it won't happen to us. They don't want anything. Well, wouldn't you expect a furniture manufacturer to say that? This is one of the largest, I'll put the URL in. This just happened on July 10th. I forget the name of the furniture manufacturer. I use this one because, again, manufacturers are kind of like those, almost like, oh, no one wants our stuff. We're a manufacturer. What do they have to take of ours? Well, this is one of the largest, the world's the United States, rather, largest furniture manufacturers. And what happened here is when they saw that the threat actor was in and started encrypting various parts of their systems, they had to shut down the entire operation for obviously, to thwart the spread of the attack. When they did that, obviously, all of the industrial all the systems related to that went down as well. So literally the entire system is down. They can take orders. Their e-commerce is segmented, which was smart, but they cannot fulfill anything. So my chuckle isn't laughing at it. Again, it's, this won't happen to us. Well, who is it going to happen to? And then one more, and then we'll get into some takeaways, that things that you can use in your business. Our friends at Snowflake. Remember this one? Huh?
This is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. This was one where, which I'll show you in a minute, the supply chain implication of this one. But let's just take your Snowflake. Their little attack, by the way, which was completely based on, I'll show you in a minute, credentials that were, well, let me not give away the fun. They only lost, Jim, a cool 15 billion in market cap.
Yeah, pocket change.
Yeah. That's what they lost. So really interesting. The other thing is, you have to wonder, when you look at the chart, what was known maybe here and here and here? Because this is a stock that was in the 240s. And why I say that, again, this is just sheer speculation, is this. They were on the sale on the dark web for years, and the creds had not been rotated or updated. Which, Jim, I'm sorry, Chip, like, for somebody that's probably has a fairly robust InfoSec program, you have to sit here and scratch your head of how is that possible?
That's amazing. It just gave me a new investment idea, and I never thought of before, is searching the dark web for companies that have credentials out there, and then, placing shorts on their stock.
Yeah, it sounds like a great one. Maybe we can do a leverage thing here, and everybody at SaaS Alerts community can all throw in, a bunch of money, Jim.
Yeah, we can start the SaaS Alerts Investment Club.
Be careful, Chip. I think that the SEC would come after us using non-public information. Oh, wait, it's on the dark web. It's public.
Exactly.
So this gets into a little bit of today and what I was talking about last week. Obviously this is, you got to scratch your head on your, password policies and identity and access.
Hey, but Andrew, can I ask you a question about this one?
Yeah, of course.
This actually circles all the way back to the beginning of the discussion. The account attacks that were driven were not actually Snowflake corporate, at least initially, correct? These were people who are using Snowflake's products and not configuring their own databases correctly.
My understanding, and I could be wrong, Chip, is Snowflake was first hit. Then they pivoted and found all of the non-MFA accounts in the storage areas, like the AutoZone was a big one, AT&T, etc. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I got to go back and review it, because I actually thought it came the other way around, that some of the individuals were hit. Then that became a pattern, and people realized, hey, hang on a second, what's going on with Snowflake, the actual provider of these data services, and that's when they got whacked. I'll reread it, and we can come back to it next week.
Yeah, it's obviously it's the one or the other, but what's fascinating is the size of the companies that are getting whacked here as a result of this. Now, this is a class action lawsuit, no doubt, coming your way. This is just sheer negligence on Snowflake's part.
Yeah. You think AT&T is going to be a class action lawsuit?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so Chip,
I'm waiting for my mail from the lawyers on that one.
So then, Chip, you and I were bantering back and forth. And by the way, this is a latest Google Cloud report. I'm not going to send it because it's really about serverless functions and more GCP and things like that. But here's the point, which I'll validate going in a moment, to how it applies to M365 Google Workspace. It's the threat vector or initial access vector is one and the same, and that is the astounding way in which we as the, businesses are allowing these current, or our customers are continuously, people every year, Chip, on at Write a Boom or something like, what should we be, what's the latest and what are we going to be really focused on this year? It's, I mean, when you have poor credentials and misconfiguration and no MMFA, I don't really think you need anything new and spellbinding to help out a threat actor, do we?
It's still 1999. I mean,
Yeah.
Rich opened the day for us with this, basically, not misconfiguration, but a client probably with a weak password if they cracked it and wouldn't use MFA.
Well,
Right?
and the reason I'm showing this is look at what we just talked about with Snowflake. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is a company that should have one of the strongest security programs based on not only their market cap, their customers, etc. Right? Okay. So then, Chip, you're like, well, how is it, this is, serverless cloud function, is that really applicable? So I went and back tested it against, what is applicable to us in the Verizon DBER, and the data, it doesn't matter whether it's, web application, again, where they put in M365 into this. But as you can see here, creds and web apps mirror the other data set that we were fairly closely that we were just looking at in terms of threat access. So, okay. So what can we do with this? How do we use this? Last week, I started to talk about, Jim, when I said, hey, well, we're going to have Brent Gleason, we're going to have Brent Adamson as the keynote speaker and on his new book, Customer Confidence, which is really helping our customers help them ask better internal questions. So I came up with a top 10. Again, this isn't like, these are the right top 10. These are things that I thought we could, start from. And if you've ever heard of like the marketing, Amy, I'm going to ask you this, but have you ever heard of like the hook story offer or HSO framework in marketing? You hook somebody with a compelling headline, there's a story, and then there's an offer. Well, our offer here is get the 10 essential questions to ask yourself. And this is really what I'm hoping, you, like Andy, if you were like, hey, we do this, quick assessment. We ask you come in, we ask you 10 questions and give you guys better insight to your company. And, in looking inwardly, it's not a sales call. We're coming in to, have you ask some really pertinent questions around what's most important to your business in terms of business applications, what drives revenue, processes. And in this case, right, you'd give them some information about whether it's, the breach with, CDK, which was, hey, like, it won't happen to us. I agree with you. It wouldn't happen to those 15,000 auto dealers, but it did because their line of business app got popped, not because they did anything. And so here's some, questions that, hey, when you ask this type of question internally, what kind of answers do you think you would get? Right. I'll come back to this in a second, but this was really fascinating, Chip, and this literally I found this morning, which was, and I promise, like I said, I'll come back to that top 10. I'll give it to everybody. So, how we've been talking about SEC, breach notification, right? So the SEC has come up with this framework, and I thought it was good again, kind of, even though this is SEC, I thought we might be able to use this again as a tool in our marketing. So, this is what the SEC is putting out to make it easy for their public companies as a framework as kind of a rubric. So like, as an example, simple things like, could the incident be severe, right? And there's basically these line of questions that you could embed into a questionnaire for your customers, right? This is, if you look down this line, whether you're CDK or whether you're Snowflake, right? Most of these, they would have gone right down to yes, which was basically helping them, the publicly traded company, go, hey, yes, we need to have, we need to expose this to the SEC. So any thoughts on this, Jim or Chip? I thought it was, again, it's not kind of
This is fantastic.
yeah, it's not esoteric in the sense of your customers wouldn't get it. And you're using it as, hey, look, let me show you what's going on in companies that have the biggest security budgets on the planet, right? And these are the ones that are getting popped. So I want to, again, come back to what's the impact to your revenue and your business. That's why I would like to, ask you questions, have you ask, these questions to yourself, to your company, to help you guys better prepare. Not you're missing the security control. Oh my God, you don't have this in place. Andy, you had a question.
This is amazing. Could we get this slide or the URL for this to either in chat or sent out to us from SaaS Alerts? Andrew, this feeds into a BIA. This feeds into, doing an assessment. This feeds into building relationship, asking the paradoxical questions that you talked about. This is a great putting a little bow on this thing.
Yeah, I the exact same thought, Andy. I can't believe you didn't text me this morning, by the way, like you do everything else. Andrew, Andy, but this would be a great look. There's fair use here, right? We all taxpayers paid for the federal government to put this together. So I would recommend to our folks on the call, take this format and repurpose it for an easy way to walk through customers during that BIA, during impact analysis. That's terrific. Just a really simple flow chart.
Yeah, again, or create if you use HubSpot, create an easy landing page. Hey, we've created the, 6-step guide to, again, even if Andy, for you, right? Like they're not public, but, do you need to notify regulators, right?
This applies to any business because they're impacted by each one of these elements. And it may not be to the tune of millions or billions of dollars or the cost of doing a public notification, but it will impact their employee relationships, their customer relationships, and their cash flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So absolutely, Andy. I always send these over to Michelle, and I'll find the URL for this one as well. And I'm sorry, Michelle, Amy. Gosh, I did it, Amy. I got to put $5 in the jar.
She's only known as SaaS Alerts today, not Amy.
I'm gonna be rich by the end of the year if we keep doing this $5 every time.
Yeah. But what do you guys think about this? You don't have to be kind to me or like, placate. Is this kind of stuff helpful, putting these top 10 lists together, these questions? And again, you can morph it to how you would say, hey, have you asked this question? What would you say if you asked this question internally in your company? Because this one here, like I thought about number 2. Well, that didn't come out right, Jim. I thought about the second question. I thought about this second question, and like, think about this coming all the way over to here and Snowflake. Like, had they asked that question, you're talking, what was it? That is a $15 billion market cap question. That's pretty profound.
It is. It's
And
massive.
I didn't sit there and talk about any boogeyman, any security control. Oh my God, you don't have this. You're going to get hit because you don't. And didn't you hear about? No, I just asked them about their password policies. And do you ever consider how that could impact your revenue? Let me share with you a story where it had a profound impact on revenue and reputation and market share. And anyway, I'm as Gary Pico likes to say, I'm all fired up now, Jim.
Yeah, that's good. Fired up is good.
All right. So we're at the top of the hour. I'll send this over to you, Michelle, and find the URL for Andy as well, and to send out to everybody. So
Andrew, that's another $5 in the char, by the way.
did I say Michelle?
Thank you, Liran. Yep.
Yeah.
That's okay. You'll get it one day.
You just lost another-
You've known me longer, right?
You've lost another day on the Liran, you've lost a day on the autonomous pen testing.
Amy, I think you just let it build up till the next writer boom, and then you got a lot.
Hey guys, I gotta go.
Yeah.
See everybody.
Ditto.
Guys, have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys.